Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Alexio Picco. I'm the Managing Director of the Circle Group, and I'm very happy to welcome you to the Connecting EU Insights Spring Edition 2021. We had already an very intense week with a number of different events discussing about key topics and on the port and logistic in the port and logistic domains. And we have now the last day and the very last event of the week is a very interesting interview with one of the most innovative person I know personally. That is the president of the Ports of Rome, the Ports Authority of Civitavecchia, that I call on stage, Pino Musolino. Good morning, Mr. President. Good morning.
And good morning to you, and good morning, everybody connected. Thank you very much.
The idea is to elaborate with the President on a number of key points that are emerging as a very strategic topics for which ports could increase even more their competitiveness, and how the innovation is changing the role of the ports nowadays, specifically for the new role that the ports may have also as an energy node and not only as a transport node. So let me just give you a little bit of introduction of the President, and then I'm going to ask you a number of questions, Mr. President. He graduated in 2006 in law at the University of Bologna, and in 2010 he achieved also the master's degree in international commercial and maritime law at University of Wales, Swansea. Up to March 2017, he worked as a corporate insurance risk manager for the Middle East area at Hapag-Lloyd in Singapore. And from 2012 and 2016, he was senior claims manager and average adjuster at Atlantis International Services in Antwerp. And before that, he worked as sales and contracts manager at Mechel Service Belgium, again in Antwerp. The last years he spent in a very nice place, Venice, and now he moved to the Ports of Rome as a new president of the Ports of Rome. And in this new role, the interview is meant to ask you a number of key questions on the competitiveness of the port and the role of the port, of the new role that your port could have in the near future. So let's start with the first one. That is exactly what I was referring a little bit before. So ports are now emerging in their role as energy hubs, potential energy hubs. And which is your strategy for the Ports of Rome, and which is the time frame to make it happen? Because this is also an important issue to be taken into account.
Well, Alexio, this is a very well structured question because you got all the key points. You know, it's very relevant to have a strategy, but then if you don't have a benchmark and a time frame upon which you can control and check whether you are getting there, you just have written the fairy tales book, you know. So essentially what we have to do now is to move from the moment where we have all decided that being greener, being more energy efficient, it's a must, to the moment where we are doing that and moving forward to implementing more innovative solutions in our ports. I have to say we found a very advanced port. When I moved here 4 months ago, I found already a port that was already planning significant innovations in terms of greening and implementing new technologies in the port. So it wasn't so difficult to add some layers to that and try to push the agenda even forward. Well, you know, back in 2016, the Italian regulators have enforced the need to make a national master plan for energy efficiency and environmental issues for every port, and it has been implemented here back in 2019 with a plan of very ambitious goals. What we're trying to do now is essentially, as you correctly mentioned, making the port, which is normally an energivore machine, you know, it's really eating a lot of energy, making it from an energy eater to an energy producer, and at the same time to digitalize the grid, making it a smart grid, and in this way using the energy produced and handled in the port in a way that will decrease the waste and improve the total output of our ports. moreover, investing on different layers. There's not a silver bullet solution for energy efficiency, you know, or for making the port greener. It's not one solution. It's not just LNG or hydrogen or ammonia. What is much more interesting to me is that we can achieve some significant goals by blending different solutions, and in doing so, decreasing 1% by 1% the carbon footprint and the total overall environmental impact that the port has in this perspective to the rest of the world. But going a little bit more in depth, if I may, we have already launched several, at least 2 European projects on hydrogen, because we do believe that hydrogen can be and should be one of the solutions of the future, as I mentioned. But we are developing with some software companies this smart grid system in order to rationalize with some elements of artificial intelligence and some special algorithms the best use of the energy that we are essentially making in the ports. We are planning on some areas that we've got in our port to make some solar panel farms. Those solar panel farms, well, with a significant power, because we're planning to make 24 megawatts of energy produced only by this mean, which will be then stored with special solutions. And one of these special solutions could be also energy storage through hydrogen, green hydrogen. And then we are moving on making most of all our buildings and of the non-our buildings, the buildings in the port owned by other companies or entities, all completely covered of solar panels, which is kind of funny if you think.
And decreasing emissions in the carbon dioxide, and the real world, which doesn't technology. More than anything else,
more than whatever power you can find, the best solution that is here and now is to make the same things with less, or making better things with what we have. And so, you know, we're planning completely to move from the actual bulbs that are all over the port to a very high efficiency bulbs, LED base, which will at the end imply a minus 67% of energy usage compared to today. And we are trying to do that in all the terminals, including the private terminals, the privately owned and run terminals, including the cruise terminal. As you know, we are a very leading port in cruises. So this is what we're trying to do. And related to the time frame, we also are imposing to ourselves a very strict time frame. We're planning to make these sort of things within the next 4 years, all real and up and running. So essentially, I don't want to give myself any latitude to lag behind and to stick on these beautiful ideas on paper. We've got in this, you know, greenwashing. It's another big capital sin of our days. And so we don't need to talk about that and stick there. We need to talk, make, implement, and reassess. And then at the end of this project, of this process in 4 years, hopefully I can stay here for 8 years if I can get renewed. Then we would like to reassess everything after this 4-year stint and see what was working, what was not working, and move forward again.
Thanks a lot. I think it's a very clear message and a clear strategy. In this respect, how do you see the role of green incentives, especially to reward specific environmental merits, you know, of the operators that they are dealing with your ports, and how they should be applied in an harmonized manner across Italy, but let's say Europe?
Well, this is also a very good question. I mean, I am a strong believer that rather than punishing, you can get the best out of markets if you get incentives to people. So it's not about telling to the bad guy that he's a bad guy, it's to give him the opportunity to the good guy to prove that he is the clever, smart guy that he thinks he is. So essentially, incentives are the key in a very competitive environment to have quickly innovations in this field achieved. But we need to think in a broader spectrum and define what incentive means. Is it just making these people pay less taxes or having some public money? Or it's also planning, you know, in the port in a different way. I want to give you an example. What I'm trying to do with my master plan with these ports is also trying to bring in certain areas only certain kind of enterprises and activities, mostly, as I said, in renewable energies and those high-end technologies fields, by giving them the opportunity or extra points in achieving the land leases and the contracts. So also that is a form of incentive, which is not really in terms of public money given or grants accorded, but it's more about, if you want to get into the port, you need to answer to certain or to meet certain requirements, and your investments needs to go in a certain way. In this manner, we're not planning and centralizing things. I'm not a great supporter of a great intervention of the state, but a little bit of state, a little bit of public can orient in a positive manner the already happening investments and innovations in the field. So I think we need to blend very well also here the measures, being careful not to create public supported monsters. You know, we have seen already in the recent years that through incentives on wrong field, we were going into the exactly the opposite direction that we meant to. I just give you an example. I don't believe exactly what the World Bank was writing, but a couple of weeks ago, a month ago, if I remember well, the World Bank issued a very clear statement against LNG, absolutely advising every possible public investor not to go there. And I think that you know, until recently, LNG was the mantra, and we were supposed to do that. So I don't want to believe that LNG, as I always said, it's a transitional form of energy. It's just a momentary, but let's say 15 years lifespan momentary solution. I don't think that it's so dramatic as the World Bank has said, but the World Bank was pointing out, be careful. You have helped and given incentive on something that probably is not giving the outcome and it's not providing the result that you were planning to and dreaming of. So again, we really need also in this field to do incentive, reassess, check at the end of a sensible time frame, 3 years, 5 years, and see where these incentives are going in order not to support businesses or innovations that are not to be supported.
I mean, you gave a very, very good example of something that happened at policy level, let's say, boosting and pushing LNG in the recent years. Now there is a total switch to hydrogen and other kind of fuels that is making a little bit of, you know, contradicting times for port and shipping. In this respect, which are the main gaps to be covered still by the European policy? Okay, we have the overall umbrella of the Green Deal, fine, that is perfect, and we see the difference, we see the switch to this, but there are still gaps to be covered also in respect of incentives. And on the transport side, the 10th revision that is undergoing, how could help in this respect?
Oh, that's really a nice question, but I should have like 3 or 4 hours to answer properly to that. I mean, mainly, well, first and foremost, EU policies on transport have been based for the last 20 years mainly on the land side of the transportation system. If you look at the money granted to infrastructuring projects, you've got a ratio of 5 to 1, 6 to 1 for each euro invested in ports and shipping. There were 7 euros or 6 euros invested to land connectivity. So there is a need of shifting or rebalancing this amount of money invested. Why? Not because, of course, I work in a port, so I clearly speak for my field, but you know, if you consider that shipping is the culprit of the main, or probably is the single industry most polluting in the planet, and if you add to that 80 to 90% of the goods in the world, in their life as a product, at least once in a lifetime, are being shipped on a vessel, that means that they see twice in their lifetime at least a port, the loading port and the discharging port. Then you understand that ports at the central ring of supply chains and global value chains, and therefore, if we are meant to increment and implement increases of our markets and our trades, then ports will be heavier and heavier on these trades, and therefore ports and shipping needs to be supported more. And also there needs to be much more pushing for innovations and changes that are not yet happening. So this is the first point. EU policies needs to give more money, more focused money, of course, not just random money, more focused money on ports and shipping. That hasn't been done so far. And we still, if you remember, probably 3 years ago at the last Expo days that we were making in Ljubljana, there was a nice sticker that I still have on my passport that was like a more EU funding for transport. But I would like to have a new one. It is more EU funding for sea transport, because that's even more important. And secondly, we need to think in the revision of the TEN-T much more, particularly in the Mediterranean, about the motorways of the sea. Which is one of the corridor, you know, it's the only corridor which is not based on land, and which is encompassing the whole continent. It's very well developed in the north, you know, the Baltic Sea, the North Sea is really strong on that. Paradoxically, Italy is one of the leaders with ship owners on SSS, but we are still a little bit behind on developing these sort of things. My old dream would be that we could develop now, projecting Europe towards Africa, with the possibility to develop MOS also when the other country is not belonging to EU. Why? Because I think that in helping in doing so, we are also helping the union. Otherwise, you're going to have trucks that are still, you know, hanging around our roads when there's no need. You've got extra costs of maintenance and for the roads and flyovers and all these, you know, infrastructures. And plus, you've got the environmental costs. So these two things could be really a big achievement in the revision of the TEN-T, and a little bit of a change in the mindset that also, in turn, would force us, the port managers, to be better, faster, and clever.
Thanks for that. Just a couple of remarks on that. On the policy side, you're perfectly right. What we are also now looking is that there is a little bit of distance between the push. Take OPS, okay, now cold ironing. There is a big push on cold ironing on the port side, but not an equivalent one to support the shipping side, to retrofit vessels or, you know, to be equipped for that. And if you don't do this, you know, in an harmonized way, this is not going to work, or at least not perfectly, or it will take a lot of time, because of course, who is the first to invest is always, you know, the key point in this. In terms of the TEN-T revision, you know that we are also leading the Motorway of the Sea consultancy for the European coordinator, and I thought that we share this view, and I know that the coordinator shares this view totally. The extension to non-EU countries is essential, not only in the Med, take also the Black Sea, is the same situation.
Absolutely.
And it's essential to boost the short sea shipping, because most of the connections are with non-European countries. So a solution should be found for that. And I know that things are going on in this respect, and hopefully this policy will make this life for short sea shipping easier in the future. Let me shift a little bit to another subject that you mentioned before, linked to the energy side. But let's go back to digitalization as a whole, not only as a key point to make the energy hub more, you know, smart, efficient, and so on, but as a key enabler to streamline the port processes, the supply chain. Which are the main directions to be taken in your view in this respect?
Well, we can go literally everywhere, from small things to big things. The digitalization and the use and the combined use of AI and digital innovations it's really the key in the future for making transport better, faster, more economically savvy, but also at the same time greener and more efficient for the environment. You know, well, of course, depends also where you are, essentially, because some countries in Europe are already far ahead, and so they are already developing third, fourth layers of digital innovation. Back here, we have started slowly, so we need to kind of you know, increase the pace. But what we're doing first is now very soon we will start our very own first PCS, the Port Community System, where a huge amount of info will be handled and distributed. We put into that the customs authorities, the port side, of course, then the, you know, with the arrivals and so on and so forth. So an integrated management of all the infos between sea and land will be soon operative in the port. I know we started a little bit in wrong timing, but we are trying to fill the gap quickly, and that system will be very innovative, and I hope it will be welcomed by the users in a very nice manner. But it's everywhere, from OCR at the gates in the terminals to giving PPU units to pilots in order to help piloting the vessels in a better manner and in a more in a safer manner, including mapping in the ports, the ATON points, you know, the aids to navigation points, so that you can have a virtual twin of the port that can help the port performing 24/7 in almost every condition at the safest possible way. These are just few examples, if you may, but these are the things that we can really implement quickly and achieve good results without wasting a lot of money. Again, it comes to the top of my mind, the possibility to have an app which can be distributed to all the truck drivers that are approaching the port or are supposed to leave the port, so that they are not coming in congestion time. You know, normally where you've got some, particularly in the outbound traffic, you've got some hours of the day where trucks are arriving, they're queuing with their engine on for hours and hours, polluting the hell out of that with no need, because they are wasting their time, they are staying idle, and only with re-engineering this process, you can have a better management of the ports, of the movements, and of the urban mobility. I know it's maybe a very basic thing, but digitalization in this respect can really help a lot. And if you combine that with predictive artificial intelligence that can tell you in advance where things will happen and where you can act immediately, well, that's the port of the future, but the technology is already here. So we need to be fast, and that's where I'd like to go very soon, very quickly in the next years.
Yes, I mean, it seems very basic, but it is not. There are other examples. I mean, in this week, we discussed about the estimated time of arrival, both for vessels on sea and and for trains.
Yeah.
And it seems an easy issue, but it is not. We discovered that it is not that easy to have a very quality added value estimated time of arrival, and this is essential in ports, for instance, to manage to optimize the port call processes, you know, and the same for train. I mean, arriving in a port is exactly the same. So even easy thing, they are not so easy as they seem, and digitalization is a key enabler for that. A very last point and question for you, Mr. President. So if you have to pick 3 keywords for your port of the future in 2030, which ones are you going to pick?
Wow, that's a nice question. Again, digital, innovative, inclusive. And if I may articulate the last one, ports tended to be talking to their belly button for 30, 40 years. They were, you know, just like a sort of like for a topic for initiated. You know, we were talking among each other and everything. But we forgot that ports are normally located nearby cities or within cities. And we talked very little with these cities. And this has created a big cleavage between the citizens of the city that are not involved with the ports and the ports that is normally seen as sort of alien, and more often than not an alien that is located in the best parts of the city, you know, in front of the water, using a lot of land, and keeping a lot of land away from the city due to the ISPS, ISM code, and so on and so forth. So inclusiveness in this respect, we need to be more open to the city. We need to create more occasions where city and ports are doing things together, and we need to have always in mind that whatever we do in the ports can have an effect on the quality of life of the city. And last but not least, inclusive in the way that we need to be more gender balanced. You know, ports are still places where men are playing the bigger part. I don't believe that's the future. I actually think that it's a very bad past. So we need to make it, again, digital, innovative, inclusive.
Quite clear, quite understandable, and I totally agree with your vision. So we thank you very much for your time. It was really interesting. This is going live, but it's going to be replicated and available later on all the digital channels. And of course, we welcome the fact that you share also. So thank you very much for your time, Mr. President. It was a real pleasure to have you with us.
And thank you as well for the opportunity you've given.
Now we are at the very end of this week, and so I really thank you all the 1,000 people, participants to this full set of events this week. It was a long journey, very interesting from our side. We will come back. Everything will be digitally available, and we will come back with new initiatives. And the new initiatives, we hope that it will be a little bit more physical than digital in the near future, because we need this, and we deserve in a way this. And we see a little bit of light now, and we will see and we will meet physically also sooner. So thanks a lot, and have a nice day and have a nice weekend. Bye bye.